Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 56th episode of the FilmBrony Podcast. I am, of course, Nick Canino, the guy in charge of the podcast. And with me, I have a guest, as always, who started the whole podcast. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, it seems so short since the last episode, yet somehow it feels kind of longer since I did star in two popcorn panel episodes in between this one and the last one.
Yeah, and it just feels so awesome, by the way, that my number one pick ended up winning Best Picture at the Oscars. So
it was my number 5.
Yeah, third year in a row, baby. Third year in a row. Anyway, welcome, guys, to the podcast. Hello, Taz. Hello, Network 98. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's podcast. This one's going to be a bit shorter compared to the rest. It's just I've been busy so much lately. Life's been getting in the way, and that's why our reviews tonight are going to be a bit shorter than last time. So, but yeah, we got some stuff planned for you guys today. So even though the show's going to be short, it'll still at least be at least like entertaining, to say the least. So anyway, before we start our movie reviews, we're going to start with our usual thing we do, which is the Blu-ray showcase.
All right, Bugsy Malone.
Really good movie.
For your consideration.
Really good film.
Ginger Snaps.
Nice.
One of the best so bad as good movies that happening.
What? No.
Harold and Maude.
That's a really good one.
Heaven Can Wait.
One of Warren Beatty's best.
And once again, David Zaslav, here's yours. Your number 2.
Yeah, fuck you, David Zaslav.
Red Eye.
Nice.
This Royal Collection, this has King's Speech, The Queen, Shakespeare in Love, Young Victoria, and Vanity Fair. Silent House.
Nice.
The Stand, the original miniseries. Stir of Echoes.
Stir of Echoes. You know, I have the tape for that. I actually have the tape for Stir of Echoes. Right here.
And last but not least, This Is the End.
One of the funniest films of the last decade.
So hard.
Yep. And all right, so here is my Blu-ray showcase. One of my favorite films of 2016, Hacksaw Ridge.
Too bad the director went from that to a certain movie we'll get to.
Yep, this is the reason why I wanted to bring this up. Next up, one of my favorite films of 2020, The Invisible Man.
Really good movie.
Yep. Another one of my favorite movies of 2020, Promising Young Woman.
Indeed.
And finally, I have two fantastic films from last year. September 5th.
I'll have to get that.
And Mike Lee's Hard Truths.
I'll have to see that.
Anyway, that's all for the Blu-ray showcase. So, as usual, let's get to the damn reviews.
First, I'm going to get to Dinner Thieves 2 Pantera. Now, the first Dinner Thieves from 7 years ago, I thought wasn't very good. I thought it was a bit slow, and the last hour was fun enough, but it was just a bit too late. This sequel, I thought, was more the same. It's well acted, especially from Gerard Butler, and admittedly, a bit more did happen here than in the last one. That's why I gave it a slightly higher rating, but it was just more the same. More the same slow build-up, more the same decent action, but honestly, not really worth my time. If you love this movie, I guess there's more to this movie that I guess this movie can entertain you enough. But as for me, I guess it's sea of mediocrity.
And this year has not been off to the best start right now, especially with like Gene Hackman passing away. I agree with that. And I did not see the trailer for that yet. I do have some hope, given the fact that this is from the director of Marcel, The Shell with Shoes On, but I don't know about this one.
Now we're gonna get to Wolfman, and after
Wolfman.
The Invisible Man, I was really hoping that Lee Winnell would follow this up with a good movie, and unfortunately, it was just okay. The concept is a bit neat, going for a more body horror aesthetic to the lycanthrope genre, and it is well acted, especially from Christopher Abbott. But the problem is, I felt really slow even for an hour and a half movie. It goes for a generic strange father storyline, and yeah, it was just okay for me.
That felt so cliched.
Oh yeah, as for me, it gets the seal of accuracy. Not great, but not horrible.
Well, this is the first movie I'm reviewing of 2025, and it is the most disappointing film of the year so far. Oh, Lee Winnell. I don't know what happened with this one dude, but this wasn't good. Now, that's not to say like there weren't some good things in it, because there were. Christopher Abbott gives out a very good performance as Blake, and Matilda Firth was really good as Blake's daughter Ginger. The practical and makeup effects are excellent, especially with how Abbott's character transforms into the Wolfman later on in the film, which was really fascinating, I should say. And it has brilliant sound mixing and design. And there are some real tension-filled moments here and there, especially in the opening, which was really, really good. Sadly, that's where my pauses with the film ends. The story felt straightforward and underwhelming. I was also very disappointed in Lee Winnell's directing, since it came off as being a muddled mess. And the screenplay that he and Corbett Tuck wrote for the film isn't any better either, especially with it having bland dialogue, characters that feel paper thin and forgettable, and it doesn't do much with its themes on family, trauma, or guilt, especially with either how either heavy-handed or messy they felt. The rest of the acting, while not terrible, wasn't that great. Julia Gardner, who I really like, and I don't know if it's the writing or directing, was shockingly bland in this movie as Charlotte. And to make matters worse, her character is basically there just to dump some exposition, which was really unnecessary. And it's one of my biggest pet peeves in movies. Like, for goodness sake, guys, like, and I can't even believe that this was Lee Winnell. Usually he wouldn't rely so much on exposition, but this one, I don't know what happened here with this. The score was subpar, and so was the cinematography, especially with how extremely dark some of the night shots felt, that it was really hard to see at times. Like, really, guys, you couldn't just let the camera up a bit? Really? It's got bland editing, pacing issues in the second half. It's also filled with cliches that you've seen in other films before, including one cliche Søren mentioned, and an ending that felt underwhelming as hell. So, yeah, I was disappointed overall with the way Wolfman turned out. Despite Christopher Abbott delivering a very good performance and the film having excellent cinematography, I mean excellent practical effects, practical makeup effects, and some creepy moments here and there, Wolfman is unfortunately the first disappointing film of 2025, as well as being Lee Winnell's worst movie he's made so far, since it felt bland, hollow, generic, and underwhelming. It pains me to say this, but I'm going to have to unfortunately give Wolfman 2025 a 3 out of 10 or D+. If you want to see a better movie involving Wolfman, watch the original Wolfman from the 1940s and watch An American Werewolf in London. That's a great movie. Those films are definitely worth your time. Yeah, I really did not like this one. Next up is, but my next film is, but my next film is one of the most surprising films of this year so far. One of Those Days. Now, One of Those Days is about these two women played by Keke Palmer and Caesar, whom after her boyfriend takes her rent money. Hold on. Yeah, after her boyfriend takes her rent money, Alyssa and her roommate race against the clock to avoid eviction and keep their friendship intact. I really like this movie. This one surprised the hell out of me with how good it was, and how a lot of fun it was too. To me, watching One of Them Days felt like a nice little throwback to those '90s buddy comedy films. One of which, especially being one of the best examples of this is Friday with Ice Cube and Chris Tucker. And watching that film really reminded me of that, and in a good way too. The story, it's simple, yet it felt highly engaging throughout. The screenplay was very good too, mainly due to its solid characterization and dialogue, and how it does a very good job exploring its main themes of community and friendship. The directing is great. The acting was very good, especially from Keke Palmer and Caesar, who were both fantastic in the film, and they also had great chemistry as well. Cat Williams and Maud Apatow are also very good as well too. It's got a solid soundtrack, brilliant cinematography, good editing, and great pacing. 90% of the jokes hit very well, especially with some, including the blood donation scene that made me laugh so hard. Like, oh my god. And the ending was really satisfying as well. As for issues, there are 10% of the jokes that do fall a bit flat, and there's other criticism. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just something I wanted to point it out. It does have its share of predictability, since that there are moments in the film where you can predict what's going to happen too. But that's really it. Overall, One of Them Days features some great performances and chemistry by Keke Palmer and Caesar, and it's funny, highly entertaining, charming, and a nice little throwback to those 90s buddy comedy films. This is absolutely one of the better movies I've seen this year so far. 9 out of 10 or an A-. Check it out.
Now for our next movie, I only have one question. Y'all need a better agent?
Y'all need a better movie and a better filmmaker and a better writer, because this shit ain't it.
Yeah, it's Flight Risk. Sad to see Mel Gibson go from Braveheart and Hacksaw Ridge to this movie, because this was just a bore fest. I will say that Michelle Dockery and Paul Victor are at least trying, and there are some unintentionally hilarious moments, especially from Mark Wahlberg. But mostly, it was just a bore. It's like they were trying to fill the minimum 90-minute runtime with all these talking scenes, and it was just boring. So yeah, this is a contender for the worst movie of the year so far, and the fact that this director has been chosen to be one of Hollywood's 3 ambassadors is just why?
It's ridiculous.
So yeah, seal disapproval.
You could have gotten a better actor or a better famous person to be one of the Hollywood ambassadors, not this anti-Semitic and racist piece of shit. Anyway, your rating?
Sealed for disapproval.
This is the worst movie I've seen this year so far. I am not joking when I say that Flight Risk I am not kidding when I say that Flight Risk is absolutely one of the most idiotic, incompetent, and boring movies I've ever seen in my life. You know what? It's just, it thinks it's so clever at being a throwback to those cheesy 90s action movies when it takes itself way too seriously and drags on and on and on with its bullshit shenanigans to the point where you're not only left feeling bored, but also angry and frustrated as well. And as a result, the movie becomes nothing more than a complete waste of time. I feel bad for Mark Wahlberg since I feel really bad for Mark Wahlberg because even despite that obvious bald head cap he was wearing, he was the only actor that at least tries with what he's given. It's too bad though that the material he was given to ended up being terrible. But again, I don't want to place this on Mark Wahlberg because it's not his fault. It's not his fault that the material he was given to was terrible. I think it might also have to do with the fact that I'm also friends with one of the Wahlbergs, Donnie Wahlberg. So that's why I'm not being as like shouty or ranty as I am with the previous podcast. But with that being said, let's talk about why this movie absolutely sucks. The story was such an incompetent mess, especially since it's filled with subplots that either go nowhere since they're forgotten about or are never resolved. The screenplay is without any question the worst of the year so far, since not only is it filled with characters that feel paper thin and one-dimensional, but it's also filled with some of the worst dialogue of the year so far that it made me question if the writer of the film, Jared Rosenberg, who, by the way, this is his first time writing a movie, by the way, and it clearly shows with this. But it made me question if he got ChatGPT or some type of AI device to write the screenplay for him. Listen to the lines said in the film. Not the bedspread, not the bedspread. It's crusty. It's crusty. Charter of a private plane. I'm thinking of Gulfstream, rigid, Jay-Z level shit. I don't know about you, but I just made a Jack's Olympic in my a Pollock in my pants. Hey Winnie, did you make a poop? Stop! Come on, you're giving me a hard on. For goodness sake! For goodness sake, like, what kind of dialogue is that? Like, Jesus. And I'm trying my best not to be shouty too with what I'm saying, but it's just, can you see why the script is just terrible? Mel Gibson's directing was atrocious. The acting was terrible. Despite like I said before, Mark Wahlberg is not the problem here. No, he's trying his best. He tries his best. He really tries his best with this one. The rest of the acting is just terrible. The worst performer easily goes to Topher Grace as Winston. Like, oh my God. He was so annoying and insufferable since he acted like a whining little baby throughout that at times you just want to tell him to shut the fuck up. That's how annoying he is. It's got a bland musical score, subpar cinematography, the editing is all over the place, it's filled with cliches that you've seen in other films before, and let's get to two very big issues I have with the film. The first is the pacing. Mitch! Guess what, Mitch? PG my ass. Ladies and gentlemen, the troll is in the building. I'll get to that soon. Okay. The pacing is my first problem with the film. This movie has some of the worst pacing of the year so far. This movie was a 90-minute movie, yet it only felt like it was going on for 2.5 hours. Like, for goodness sake, guys. Like, I was so bored. I was so bored watching this movie. Like, because of the movie cramming in so many bullshit shenanigans that serve no purpose other than to pad out the film's 90-minute runtime, it just left me feeling bored and angry as a result of this. And lastly, the terrible CGI effects. Oh my God. This movie has, without any question, some of the worst CGI effects of the year so far. Especially with how they CGI'd the moose. Like, oh my goodness. Like, here, let me find it. Let me find it. Here it is. Right here it is. Right here. Let me brighten this up a bit. But yeah, look at this. Look at the CGI moose in this.
Now I know what the Brother Bear live action remake is gonna look like.
Even this guy, Bullwinkle, looks more realistic than a CGI moose.
Yeah, even in that Robert De Niro movie.
Yeah, really. Like he's probably thinking, what the hell is this crap? What the hell is this crap? This is bullshit, man.
Yeah, I know, Bullwinkle.
And people thought we looked bad in that live action movie. Look who's talking now. Oh God. Oh my God. The Bambi trailer, The Reckoning, where Bambi is like roaring like a dinosaur and then all of a sudden roaring like a fucking lion? Like, what? Oh my God. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. Yeah, I'm getting sidetracked here. I apologize. But yeah. Yeah, overall, this movie just sucks. Overall, this movie sucks. Yeah, really sucks. Really sucks. Yeah, Flight Risk is one of the most idiotic, incompetent, and boring movies I've ever seen, and it is easily the worst film of 2025 so far. And with that, you guys might have predicted this, but it is the first movie of 2025 to earn this dishonorable rating. 0 out of 10 or an F. Boo! I absolutely hated this movie. I absolutely hated this movie. This is without a doubt the worst movie of the year so far. And even if you're a huge fan of Mel Gibson, do not waste your time with this one. It is not worth it. It is not worth it whatsoever. Just stay away from Flight Risk, please.
Now we're gonna get to one of.
And yeah, exactly, Taz.
Now we're gonna get to one of 2 Steven Spielberg movies this year, Presents, and this movie had had a good premise, showed this ghost story type thing, and unfortunately, I found it to be nothing more than a poor man's version. I will say it's well shot and well acted, and there are some tense scenes here and there. However, even for an 85-minute movie, it just drags a bit. And I didn't mention this in my review, but if you watch this movie, take a shot every time the movie just cuts to black.
that was okay. Yeah, that was one of my biggest problems. The editing was definitely one of my biggest problems with the film.
Yeah, and that the tone, I felt a bit all over the place. I mean, 1 minute is a family drama, and the next minute it's a high house movie. So yeah, why I didn't hate this movie? I didn't love it either. It gets a seal of accuracy from me.
I agree with Soren that A Ghost Story is a better movie. I do agree with that. But I really did like Presence overall. Now, it will not be for everyone, especially with what this movie delves into and how it's like a meditative ghost story on like grief and loneliness. But I really like this movie regardless. Now, it's not without its issues though. Despite this being one of the better movies I've seen from Steven Soderbergh in years, there are some issues with the film. Like while it had solid characterization and it does a good job delving in depth with its main theme involving grief and loneliness, I did feel that David Kemp's screenplay could have used some improvement on the dialogue since I felt clunky and overwritten at times. And the biggest glaring issue with the film is the editing. Like, count how many times. Like, I'm not. Flight Risk was saying John Cena ass. Dingo Dino Bang the Lion. Okay. There you go, guys. There you go. Okay. So yeah, like I said before, the editing was a choppy mess. The off and on edits felt so overused to the point where it got frustratingly repetitive real quick. Now it didn't anger me, but it did annoy me quite a bit. But that's really it. That's really my only issues with the film. This is one of the better movies Steven Soderbergh has made in years. The story felt well structured. Steven Soderbergh's directing was very good. The acting was also very good, especially with Lucy Liu and Kalina Liang being the main highlights of the film. It has a haunting score, excellent cinematography, good slow burn pacing. There are some tension-filled moments when it came to some of the family drama that felt real, and an ambiguous twist, and a twist that actually felt not only ambiguous but haunting as well. Yeah, I don't want to spoil what happens, but if you saw it in a movie and you saw that twist ending, you'll know what I'm talking about. Overall, it will not be for everyone, but Presence is one of the better movies I've seen from Steven Soderbergh in a while, since I found this to be a haunting and meditative ghost story on grief and loneliness. I really liked it. 8 out of 10 or B+.
Now I'm gonna get to what I felt was the first great movie of the year, Companion. The movie about the couple who goes to this weekend getaway at the lake cabin is a compelling one, thanks to the acting, especially a career-making performance from Sophie Thatcher. And without going into spoilers, unlike the trailer, this movie delves into compelling themes on whether the relationship is worth it. And without spoiling anything, the cinematography and certain effects are really good as well. So go see this movie, but not the trailer. It gets a seal of cinema from me.
I can't go as far as to call it the first great film of 2025, since I did have some issues with I can't go as far as to call it the first great film of 2025, since I did have some issues with with not only the movie having a couple pacing issues in some spots, but also there were some decisions made involving just one plot point made in the film. No spoilers, by the way, that came across as being very questionable. Like all of a sudden when that plot point happened, and then at the end of the film, I thought more about it. I'm like, wait, how is that subplot even possible? How is that plot point even possible? But that's really it. I really, really dug the hell out of this film. This is one of the better films of this year so far. The story felt highly engaging and intriguing throughout. Drew Hancock's directing was fantastic, and the screenplay he wrote for the film was excellent as well, since it had witty, well-written dialogue. The characters being fleshed out and three-dimensional. The movie perfectly balancing its comedic and thriller tones together. And the film doing a fantastic job with exploring its themes on toxic relationships, manipulation, technology, including artificial intelligence, as well as the dangers of it. The acting was absolutely brilliant. Sophie Hatcher. Sophie. Oh. And to answer your question, hell no! Anyway, as I was saying, the acting was brilliant. Sophie Hatcher, who was brilliant last year in Heretic, gives out what I feel is her best performance yet as Iris. And Jack Quaid was also brilliant as Josh. And like one of my favorite films of last year, The Brutalist with Guy Pearce, what makes Jack Quaid's performance so fascinating is that at first he comes across as being a charming guy, but later on, as the film progresses and you see the breads crumble, you actually discover how malicious and manipulative this guy is. Again, no spoilers of what he does, but once you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they do suck. But they do suck. Let's be real here. David Letterman was like the best of the best when it comes to late shows. It's got an excellent score, fantastic cinematography, great editing, and when it came to its dark comedy and thriller, some of the dialogue said in the film felt witty and hilarious, while the film also delivered some real tension that had me on the edge of my seat throughout. And the ending was very satisfying as well. Overall, companion features, and as Søren mentioned, it had some really good effects too. Great effects, I should say. Overall, companion features a fantastic performance by Sophie Hatcher, and I found this movie to be hilarious, intriguing, and highly entertaining throughout. Now it's joining one of those days as being one of the better films I've seen in 2025 so far, and I'm going to give Companion a 9 out of 10 or an A-.
Now we're going to get to Dogman, and I was really excited that DreamWorks was following the Oscar-nominated Wild Robot with this spin-off of the Captain Underpants movie, which I really dug back in 2016. Unfortunately, 2017. Thank you. Unfortunately, I was kind of disappointed by it. It just wasn't as funny as the Captain Underpants movie, even in whether it's through poorly timed jokes or just poorly conceived jokes. I found it to be all over the place with the storytelling, mostly because it was based on 3 entire books. Pete Davidson, I thought, was kind of annoying, and it suffers from a lot. Then it suffers from a ton of cliches, either from the cop genre or from the kids movie genre. So not terrible.
I will admit to that, but still.
So overall, it's a bit of a disappointment for me, but I'll give Dogman the seal of mediocrity.
I really like this movie. I don't know where. I really like Dogman overall. I love the books, and right now, as of right now, I'm getting ready to read the fourth book, the fourth book, and the 5th book that I bought from Meyer just a couple weeks ago. Yes, and I really like this Dogman film a lot. Let's talk about the animation first. There's one word to describe the animation in this movie. Incredible! Seriously, the animation in Dogman is incredible. Not just in the art direction, but also in the designs of the characters and backgrounds that stay faithful to the source material.
The animation was really good, I'll give you that. Which is really sad that their animation company is kind of going under.
Yeah. Anyway, it stays faithful to the source material while looking so beautiful and well animated that you could have swore that it was done in stop motion. Peter Hastings' directing was very good, and the same could be said with the screenplay he wrote, since it had witty dialogue, very good characterization, and how it does a good job carefully balancing its action, comedic, and chaotic tones together. The voice acting was brilliant. Pete Davidson, sorry, Søren, I have to disagree with you on this one. Pete Davidson was fantastic as the voice of Petey, and this might be one of his best performances he's given out in his career. And not only did Peter Hastings make a brilliant decision at keeping Dogman a silent character, but he also does a great job providing the vocal dog sounds of the titular character as well. Ricky Gervais was brilliant as the voice of Flippy, while Lowell Howery, Isla Fisher, and Lucas Hopkins Calderon. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that last name, but he plays Lil Petey in the film, and it's his film debut. They all gave out excellent vocal performances as well. It has an excellent musical score, solid editing, and what I really like about this movie is that when it's not busy showing us the unapologetically chaotic nature of what goes on in OK City, it also slows down by showing us the character moments, with the main highlight being Dogman and Petey's relationship with little Petey, which I found both heartfelt and charming, as Isaac Carthy said it best in this review. Not to mention the action sequences shown in the film are a lot of fun to watch, especially with how brilliantly animated they looked. And when it came to the comedy of the film, what I really liked about it was how it cleverly references the source material. It cleverly references the source materials while also being unapologetically chaotic and energetic with its humor. Now, if I had to point out two things that did set Dogman back from being the first great film of 2025, as well as the first great animated film of the year, it would be that the story was admittedly a little too complex, especially with it having some subplots that weren't really that necessary. And the pacing is a bit too breakneck at times as well. But that's really it. Overall, not only was Dogman such a faithful adaptation of Dave Pilkey's series of books, but it's also highly entertaining and fun for the whole family. I really enjoyed this film. 8 out of 10 or B+. Check it out. I actually did not know about that.
Yeah, just mentioned that.
How terrible. How terrible. Okay, so moving on to my next movie and what is arguably my last January film before we move on to my first February film, which we'll get to in a bit. My next movie I'm going to talk about is Love Me. It's an apocalyptic romance starring Kristen Stewart and Stephen Yeun, and it's about a buoy and a satellite who meet online and fall in love after the end of human civilization. I was interested in checking this one out, given that Kristen Stewart and Stephen Yeun were in it, and the film's premise, and the fact that it was shown at the Sundance Film Festival last year was another reason this one caught my eye. And this movie definitely has some really good things in it. Kristen Stewart and Stephen Yeun both give out very good performances in the film. The musical score was very good. It had excellent cinematography, and the visual effects with a mix of animatronics were great. Unfortunately, this movie was a mess. The story was all over the place since it tried way too hard to be like WALL-E, but with artificial intelligence. The directing was a mess, and so was the screenplay. In fact, the screenplay was one of my biggest problems with the film, not only due to its bland dialogue and the characters coming across as paper thin and forgettable, but how it doesn't really say all that much when it came to exploring its themes mainly on technology, self-discovery, and identity. The editing was a muddled mess. It suffers through a lot of pacing issues throughout, and the ending felt very underwhelming. Now here's my biggest problem with the film Love Me. The way it romanticizes artificial intelligence. Unlike Companion, which Søren and I just talked about, where it dealt with artificial intelligence and the dangers of it. This one tries to romanticize artificial intelligence, and it felt so repugnant to the point where it just left a very sour taste in my mouth. James Corden, easily. Yeah, overall, despite Kristen Stewart and Stephen Yeun delivering some great performances, and the film offering some cosmic visuals, Love Me doesn't really say all that much. Doesn't really have that much to say involving technology, self-discovery, and identity, since it tries too hard to be like WALL-E, but with artificial intelligence, and it sadly comes across as feeling dull, underwhelming, and forgettable as a result of this. 4 out of 10 or a C-. I really did not like this one.
And speaking of disappointing movies starting with the word love, love hurts.
Love hurts. Love hurts? Well, guess what? So does your fucking movie!
I was really looking forward to it because Ke Kwan has been really grabbing me ever since his comeback role in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But unfortunately, he picked the wrong movie to put his face in. I will say he does his best, and some of the fight scenes are decent. But the problem is, this was just a mess, going through all these plot threads, and it was just underdeveloped since it was not even an hour and a half long. Has this really been a trend so far this year? These short movies being a mess. So yeah, I was really looking forward to this one, but it was just a humongous disappointment. Still disapproval.
God damn it, YouTube. Anyway,
Oh, and he and Ariana DeBose had like no chemistry whatsoever.
There was no chemistry between those two leads whatsoever. Hold on, give me a second. And for your information, YouTube, me saying fuck David Zaslav is not spam. Haven't you heard the title? Haven't you heard the meeting called Free Speech? Just saying. Yeah, Love Hurts was terrible. Just anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Love Hurts. God, this movie was terrible. Ke Huy Quan is the only redeeming thing in the film. He was the only actor that not only tried his hardest, but actually gave out a solid performance. He's the only reason this movie is not a 0. Even with that being said, this movie was terrible. The story was such an incompetent mess. The screenplay was absolutely atrocious due to it having atrocious dialogue, lackluster characterization, and the tone feeling all over the place where it can't decide if it wanted to be an action movie, a comedy, or a romance film. Network 998, I'm talking about Love Hurts. I was also shocked at how poorly directed it felt as well. And what's shocking about this is that this is the same guy that has done some brilliant stunt work on 300, John Wick, and The Fall Guy. So I don't know what happened here. I really don't. Also, minus Ki Hoi Kwan, the rest of the acting was terrible. Ariana DeBose. Oh my god, Ariana DeBose. Can somebody please just get her in a better movie, as well as a better agent for crying out loud? I mean, she has not been in a great movie. She has not been in a really good movie since her Academy Award-winning performance in West Side Story. I mean, first Kraven the Hunter, and now this movie. Really? Yeah, she is so bad in this movie as Rose. And there's no chemistry between her nor Ki Hoi Kwan whatsoever. There's no chemistry. Especially when towards the end of the film, Ki Hoi Kwan's character tells her how much he loves her, and then she says this line, say it again, make me believe it. Actually, it should be make us believe it. Because this chemistry is terrible. Marshawn Lynch, who was excellent in Bottoms back in 2023 as the teacher Mr. G, is also horribly miscast in this movie as King. It's just you could have gotten any other actor besides Marshawn Lynch to play like King, and it wouldn't make much of a difference. It's like casting Tom Brady. It's like casting Tom Brady as King, or Travis Kelce as King. It makes no sense. The soundtrack was obnoxious. The cinematography was subpar, especially with how many times, in the action sequences, it was nothing more than a shaky mess throughout. The editing was a choppy mess. The pacing was all over the place. The humor was dog shit. And even the action sequences weren't that great. Yes, the stunt and choreography were very good, but what ruins this are the choppy editing and the shaky cinematography. It's filled with cliches that you've seen in other films before, and the ending was so lackluster. Yeah, overall, Ki Hoi Kwan gives out a solid performance. Hello, Darius Trent. Welcome to the podcast. And yeah, they did. They really did, unfortunately. Anyway, overall, Ki Hoi Kwan gives out a solid performance as Marvin, but he wasn't enough to save Love Hurts from being one of the most boring and incompetent films I've seen this entire year so far. This is easily one of the worst films I've seen in 2025 so far, and I am going to give it a 1 out of 10 or a D-. Even if you're a fan of Ki Hoi Kwan, do not watch this movie. It is not worth your time whatsoever. Skip this and just rewatch Everything Everywhere All at Once. You'll thank us later.
Next, we're going to get to Plankton, the movie. And if you've been following me recently, you know I haven't been the biggest fan of the recent SpongeBob movies. Sponge on the Run was pretty mediocre, but the Sandy Cheeks movie I thought was horrendous. But the good news is this movie is significantly better than the Sandy Cheeks movie, mostly because of Plankton and Karen's relationship, and their scenes together are hands down the best parts of these movies, because it's Doug Lawrence and he's always balling as Plankton. That and the songs I thought weren't half bad either. However, it's still a mediocre SpongeBob spinoff. The animation is kind of better than the last one, but still looks kind of mediocre. Most of the jokes I didn't feel land. It was really slow, even for an hour and a half. And SpongeBob still kind of got on my nerves. Like he was trying to act all wacky for the sake of it. So a significant improvement, but still not good. Seal of disapproval. Finally, we're gonna get to Mickey 17, and Bong Joon-ho's follow-up to Parasite is a pretty decent one. Following Robert Pattinson, who signs up for this space colony where he's constantly cloned and constantly dies and is cloned for the sake of research. And I felt that story I found really compelling, especially since he delivers a great performance alongside Mark Ruffalo. However, I found the third act kind of still good, but kind of lacking since it went from this cloning story arc to this new story arc where Mark Ruffalo suddenly wants to kill this alien race, like Bong Joon-ho wants to make this turn it into Oak Chu or something. So after seeing this movie, I can kind of see why this bombed at the box office, but I still say it's a pretty overlooked one this year. I'll give it the seal of approval.
I love this movie. I think it's the first great film of the year so far. Yes. Now, yes. Now, yes, it could have done more with like some of the. Now, yes, some of the social commentary did feel a bit on the nose at times, and and there were some certain characters that did feel that either felt underdeveloped or really weren't that needed. But that's really it. I love this movie. Bong Joon-ho's directing was great, and so was the writing he provided with the film. Not just with excellent characterization, not just with most of the characterization being excellent, but with it having great dialogue, well-written dialogue, balancing its dark comedy, its black comedy, and sci-fi very well. And the comedy really hits so well. The comedy really hits so well when it came to some of its themes and its social commentary it provided. The story felt highly engaging. The acting was brilliant, especially from Robert Pattinson, who was brilliant in this movie. Stephen Yeun was also great, as well as Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette. The score was brilliant. The cinematography was excellent. I mean, fantastic. The editing was excellent. It's nicely paced throughout. It has terrific visual effects, excellent production design, and I actually did like the third act because it had a lot to say. Like, I'm not gonna get into what happens, but it had a lot to say about like saving
the alien race.
Yeah, it had a lot to say about saving the creatures. So that's why the third act worked for me. Overall, though, well, that figures. Too bad too, because I think this is a great movie that people should definitely watch. Overall, it may not be on the same level as Parasite, but then again, did it really need to be? But I found yeah, I may be getting sick and tired of it too, but if you're gonna handle that in movies, there needs to be context behind this. And this definitely had it. So Mickey 17 did have context with its social commentary, so that's why it worked for me. But yeah, overall, I thought this was one of the most exhilarating and entertaining films I've seen this year so far, and I'm gonna give Mickey 17 my first 9.5 out of 10 or an A of 2025. Well done, Bong Joon-ho.
Now for my pick of the show. And last time I talked about an Oscar-nominated biopic from 1996, so why not do another one? And this time it's Scott Hicks' Shine. And the movie is based off the life of... The movie based off the life of the pianist David Helfgott is compelling thanks to a screenplay by Jan Sardi, who went on to do the least terrible Nicholas Sparks movie from what I've heard, The Notebook. The sound design and cinematography are beautiful, as is the overall soundtrack. Aaron Morel Stahi was great as the father, but the movie is nothing compared to the three main leads as the protagonists. Alex Rafalowitz, Noah Taylor, whom you may know as the dad from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and especially Jeffrey Rush in his well-deserved Oscar-winning role. Reportedly, Jeffrey used to play the piano when he was younger and play for real on screen, and all that work was shown on screen. The only detriment I will say is that I wish it was longer. Legitimately, when the film ended, I wanted more. So if you're in the mood for a feel-good true story that's also a health and experience, Shine is the movie for you. As for
And
the
fun fact about that film, this won the People's Choice Award at the Toronto International Film Festival back when it was released in 1996, and I think it was well deserved.
Now, as for the dog of the show, 2009 was the year that the Razzie went to Transformers 2 of all things. To which I say, really? I mean, that movie wasn't great, but I can think of way worse movies that came out that year, from New Moon to Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 to what I consider the worst of that year, and my dog of the show, Land of the Lost.
Oh God, Land of the Lost.
This movie is supposedly based on a children's show from the 80s and 90s, except not. Really, the only things this has to do with the show are the basic premise, certain creatures, and the character names. Other than that, it has some horrendous comedic timing, especially from Danny McBride. The writing has a ton of holes. There are so many scenes where basically nothing of worth happens, and even the effects are garbage. The green screen looks like a shitty fan film. The CG on a dinosaur just sucks. And the alien costumes look like they'll look great in a fan convention but cheap in a big budget movie. Overall, this movie is too vulgar for kids, too juvenile for adults, has little to nothing for fans of the show, and it's just a miserable experience for everybody. Hence, why it's my dog of the show.
And originally I didn't have a dog in the show, but you know what? Originally I didn't have a pick of the show, but I actually found one. I actually found my pick of the show, and this is a really good film from 1998 that got this particular director on the map. My pick is Pi.
Really good movie.
Yes. Pi was a great thriller. The performances are excellent from everyone involved. And this movie does a really brilliant job with the way it explores its themes on religion, mysticism, and the relationship of the universe to mathematics. It is not an easy watch, but Darren Aronofsky did a wonderful job crafting this movie as a psychological thriller. And there are many scenes that are quite hard to watch at times, but man, is it fantastic! And the cinematography and the decision to film this in black and white was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, overall, I thought it was a brilliant film, and that's why I chose Pi as my pick of the show. And with that comes the end of the show. Thank you guys very much for watching tonight's podcast. I hope you guys had a lot of fun watching it. I sure as hell did. And so did Søren. And as always, be sure to subscribe to Søren Saunders on his YouTube channel. The link is in the description below. Give him the love he absolutely deserves. He's a very talented person.
Oh, and catch me. Until the next podcast in a couple weeks, be sure to see me on the Popcorn Panel over on Network something or other's channel, Network 3000.
Okay, yeah. Be sure to catch him on that too. And as always, as we're ending the podcast, I'm going to start with my usual. What is going to be now my usual goodbyes for right now. As always, thanks very much for joining us on this podcast, and we will see you all again next time. So long for now.